Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be talking about Manifest Destiny. Now this video is for my Contemporary Studies class, so if you do not have me for Contemporary Studies, you don't have to watch this video, but as always, you are more than welcome to. So let's go ahead and get started right into it. The first thing is United States expansionists said that the weakness of the Mexican government made them undeserving to keep lands needed for American settlement. Now, an expansionist is a person who is very interested in, well, expanding the country. In 1845, journalist John L. O'Sullivan wrote an influential editorial. The American claim is by the right of our manifest destiny to overspread and possess the whole of the continent which Providence has given us for the development of the great experiment of liberty and self-government entrusted to us. Now, John L. O'Sullivan, he was very much in favor of this expansionist view. He thought that it was America's destiny to control all of the land in North America. Okay, Manifest Destiny. Expansionists started using the term Manifest Destiny to refer to the belief that God wanted the United States to own all of North America. Expansion would come at the cost of American Indians and Mexicans. Southern expansionists hoped to create more slave states to reinforce their position in Congress. Now, I want you to look at this picture here. Now, if you had no idea what Manifest Destiny was, it's a completely new concept to you, and you saw this picture, you would probably think that it is a good thing. You know, you have this angel leading these pioneers, you know, she seems very peaceful, very friendly, so you would think that, well, Manifest Destiny, that must be a very good thing. Especially if it was something that God wanted the United States to do, well, it must be good, right? Right? Well, depends on whose side you're on. And, you know, it was pretty good if you were a colonist or an American. However, if you were an American Indian or a Mexican, this policy is not going to be in your favor. Here's a better look at that painting. In the 1873 illustration American Progress by John Gast, figures representing progress sweep westward across the western landscape. What does this illustration suggest about westward expansion? Well, it's kind of like what I just said. You know, you have this, it looks like an angel leading all of these pioneers and things westward. Now, one thing that is interesting to look at in this painting is whenever you look at the sky. Now, if you look over towards the east where the United States was, you'll see the sun is there, and it's these these partly cloudy conditions, and it looks like very good weather. However, if you go over here to the west, and dark stormy clouds, and it looks very dark and foreboding, and it's almost as if America and progress is bringing the light to the west. Now this is a very, very good propaganda piece. A propaganda piece, if you think back to previous history classes that you've had, a piece of propaganda is an image or a message or something that is designed to make you feel or think a certain way. And I think this is a very good example of propaganda. You know, looking at this, you would think, well, look at this this big angel. You know, look at the sky, all these good things. America's the good guys here, right? Well, once again, depends on whose side you're on. American commerce with Mexico. Mexico fought for independence from Spain and won. The Spanish had always discouraged trade with America, but new Mexican leaders welcomed American merchants. Merchants from Missouri saw Mexican independence as an opportunity to open trade with Santa Fe, capital of New Mexico. This was welcomed by Mexican leaders, and the Santa Fe Trail was established. Now, on this picture here, if you look at this picture. This is a map of the old Santa Fe Trail from Independence, Missouri to Santa Fe, New Mexico. Now if you look here, you'll see all of these stops along the way, and leading ultimately to Santa Fe over here. Santa Fe was one of the major cities in New Mexico, so a lot of trade happened there, and a lot of business happened there. So it was a pretty big place. So this Santa Fe Trail was traveled by merchants, traveled by farmers, by people looking to do business. Mountain men crossed the Rockies. Some hunters and trappers ventured into the Rocky Mountains. These daring trappers hunted for beaver pelts and were called mountain men. Many of these mountain men found the best routes through the Rockies via the South Pass in modern-day Wyoming. Jedediah Smith crossed the Great Basin of Utah and the Sierra Nevada to reach California. This California Trail linked the U.S. to the Pacific. So it is here that we finally have a trail, a proven trail linking the United States all the way to the Pacific Ocean. Now, let's go back and talk about beaver pelts for just a moment. You know, that might be a confusing choice, but actually at this time beaver pelts were incredibly valuable, and they were in high demand in Europe. Actually, at this time, beaver pelt was so in demand in Europe that the beaver was almost hunted into extinction in Europe. So beaver pelts are going to be highly valuable items. Now, nowadays, I can't think of too many people that would want a beaver pelt, but back in this day, the beaver pelts were high in demand. So it was worth going into these uncharted Rocky Mountains to trap these beavers. Okay, missionaries follow the Oregon Trail. Part of this trail turned north at the South Pass to reach Oregon country. In 1836, Marcus and Narcissa Whitman followed this route and became known as the Oregon Trail. The Whitmans established a compound at Walla Walla. This became an important stop for people traveling west. Now, these trails were really all that people had to follow. You know, they didn't have highways and roads and everything, and even these trails were just kind of like a rough estimation of an easy way to make it through. You know, you have to think, whenever you're traveling through the mountains and through all of these very dangerous situations, you're going to want to follow a known trail, a known path, because it literally is the difference between life and death. And we are going to talk about a group of travelers in just a little bit that had met a tragic end. Settling new lands in the West. In 1842, an official government expedition led by John C. Fremont set off across the western country, following trails blazed by the mountain men and people like the Whitmans. Although Fremont found little that was new, his vivid and romantic reports gave wider publicity to the fertility of the far west. In the years that followed, the overland trails drew thousands of settlers west to California and Oregon. Alright, those are the sections for the next bit here. A long journey west. The westward journey, starting at the western edge of Missouri, covered 2,000 miles and took 5 months to complete. They had to pass through the Great Plains, the Great Basin, which was a desert, and 2 cold, harsh mountain ranges, the Rockies and the Sierra Nevada. So this is a perilous journey. You know, this is not an easy hike by any means. 2,000 miles in 5 months. 5 months traveling every day from sunup to sundown, and it's going to take you that long to make this entire journey. So not a lot of people wanted to do this. you know, as you could probably imagine, you had to be a pretty stout individual to even want to take this on. They had to pass through the Great Plains, which, if we think back to our previous video, excuse me, what's in the Great Plains? All those raiding tribes. So you have to deal with that. The Great Basin, a desert. You know, what's not in a desert? Water. Pretty vital thing. And 2 cold, harsh mountain ranges. So there are a whole lot of dangers on this trail. The Oregon Trail, shown here in the 1850s, was originally used by fur traders and missionaries, but quickly became the main route settlers took to reach the Northwest. What geographic features presented challenges for travelers? So, if you think back to what we were just talking about, the Oregon Trail, what were the challenges for travelers, or geographic features? It would be the mountains and the deserts. Those are both going to be very hard to travel through. Okay, how did travelers prepare for the possible dangers of the trail? Well, this infographic here kind of tells the sort of things that a traveler would stock up on before they would head out on this this expedition. You have to have oxen to pull your wagon. You have to have weapons to protect yourself, food, coffee, sugar, salt. There's all of these things if you want to take a look at it. Kind of gives an overview of what the traveling on the Oregon Trail would be like, but this is a very dangerous undertaking. Okay, at this time, if you are one of my students, I would like you to click on this link and watch this video. So go ahead and pause this video and watch this one. It's only a few minutes long, and it tells about the Donner Party. Now, the Donner Party was a group of travelers, and they are one of the most infamous groups that made this journey. So go ahead and click that link if you have the PowerPoint open on your screen. Now, if you don't have the PowerPoint, I'm going to put a link to this video in the description of this video. So if you want to watch this video, go ahead and click that. It's a pretty interesting video, so go ahead and click that link. Alright, did you watch it? Good. Alright, so now you know a little bit about the Donner Party, so let's talk about them. That's going to be up on this slide here. A long journey west. In 1846, the Donner Party got lost in the Sierra Nevada mountains. This was a group of travelers led by a man named George Donner, hence the Donner Party. Now, George Donner, due to bad information, a broken wagon, and a freak blizzard, this group of travelers became trapped and resorted to cannibalism to survive. Quite a gruesome end to this group of people, and they were they just came a few miles short of completing their journey. Such a sad ending, but it just goes to show how dangerous and how quickly your fortune could change whenever it came to this expedition. One group decided to settle down during the journey west. Mormons, under the leadership of Brigham Young, convinced his followers that they must go west to survive. In 1847, the Mormons settled on the eastern shore of the Great Salt Lake. They called this area New Zion, and was originally Mexican territory, and when the United States took control of the territory, it became Utah. Now, these were people that, whenever they were making their journey west, they came to this area and just decided to not continue, that they were just going to set up and live there. So now, to this day, in the state of Utah, this is where the vast majority of the religious group, the Mormons, live. Now, there are Mormons throughout the country, but Utah is where you will find most of them. Alright, restricting the Plains Indians. In 1851, the Treaty of Fort Laramie bound the American Indians to territories far away from the major trails. This treaty was largely ignored by the natives who pursued the buffalo across any artificial barrier. You know, this agreement, this treaty, it wasn't gonna hold. You know, following the buffalo is the way of this people's life. You know, it's all they've ever known, and it's how they get their food. It's how their ancestors have gotten their food. You know, they've generation after generation after generation. That's how they've lived, is following the buffalo. So, do you think that some piece of paper that they signed, you think they're gonna follow that? No. And future conflict was guaranteed. Okay, so now I got a few questions here at the end of this video, just to kind of quiz yourself. What was the primary reason Spain founded the colonies of Texas and California? Was it A, to spread Christianity among the local American Indians? B, to build alliances with French and Russian settlers? C, to subdue the raiding Apache American Indians? Or D, to create buffer zones to protect towns and mines in Mexico? Got any guesses? If you said D, to create buffer zones, you are correct. The concept American expansionists used to justify westward territorial growth was called A, manifest destiny, B, territorial security, C, transcontinental right, or D, American providence. Got it? It's A, manifest destiny. One more. The purpose of the 1851 Fort Laramie Treaty was to A, prevent American settlers from settling in the Rocky Mountains, B, keep American Indians away from major westward trails, C, protect American Indian lands from homesteaders, or D, provide a safe refuge for Mormons. Got your answer? If you said B, keep American Indians away from major westward trails, you're correct. Okay guys, that's going to end it for this video. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment or send me a message through Schoology. As always, you have my email. You can get a hold of me that way. So I will see you all again soon. Thank you.